Odell Beckham is one of my absolute favorite players of all time, okay? And I was really happy to see him get his ring in LA this year. And I'm making this video for two reasons. The first one is to kind of highlight how the guy he was in New York is not that far off from the guy he was in Cleveland. And it was not that far off from the guy he was in LA. And the only things that really changed throughout that time was his role in the offense and his supporting cast and the guy who was throwing him the ball. And the second reason is to kind of serve as a victory lap, because I've been saying that he was still really good throughout his whole time in Cleveland when everyone else had like given up on him. I still knew he was good, goddammit. And this is just kind of a celebration of Odell Beckham throughout his time in all three stops, showing some of his route running chops, his explosiveness in all three stops. And I guess just wishing the guy well as he recovers from his torn ACL that he suffered in the Super Bowl, and whatever comes next for the guy. His reputation was at a real low point this year, and I saw way too many narratives talking about how either the catch made him, and that was his only thing that he'd be known for was the catch, or even worse, Eli Manning made him. I hope no Stay Hot fans were dumb enough to push this narrative, but if you were, I'm about to show some plays of him on the Giants that kind of dispel this. And if you weren't dumb enough to push that narrative, just enjoy some really good wide receiver film. And with that being said, let's get into it. This was a game, I think it was week 1 of 2018 against the Jaguars, who had Jalen Ramsey at this point. He was coming off a year where he was first team All-Pro, and Odell cooked him. All right, tons of separation all day. Had 111 yards and probably should have had more if Eli didn't miss him. This was a gorgeous route. It's not totally man coverage. It looks like cover 3 with Ramsey dropping back, safety in the middle of the field, this corner dropping back. So it wasn't totally like mano y mano here, but Odell still ran a fantastic route that caused Ramsey to get turned around in his zone and let Odell catch a nice pass wide open on the sideline here. And this is a post corner, right? So he takes that step that makes it look like a post right there and then breaks it outside with the corner. And there's no stutter step here. There's no slowing down. When he drives that foot to make this look like a post and cut this inside, he is absolutely full stride, really committing that he's breaking this inside, and Ramsey respects that and commits inside as well. But in one step, Odell sinks his hips and gets back outside towards the corner. Ramsey's in a bad position and he's able to make that catch. And a lot of wide receivers are going to like take a stutter step, slow down, not really commit, not go full stride. It's difficult to make that cut after being full stride in like one step, but Odell was able to do that and route this guy up and get a nice chunk play here. This one is man coverage on Ramsey, right? Pretty clear with the single high safety, the press, that this is going to be cover 1, which means this linebacker is going to have cover 1 on this running back who's running out into the flat, and the linebacker is going to have to follow him out there. All right, so what he does is he's going to be the asshole and run Ramsey into that linebacker, right? He's going to set his line so that happens, and then you see that drop step really lets him stop on a dime, and then he works his way back to the ball, makes himself a friendly target, and on a pretty basic curl and sit down at the sticks type of play here, he creates like 8 yards of separation on Jalen Ramsey. Then you see him make 2 linebackers miss and pick up a nice chunk play close to the first down. Here he is doing basically the same thing again at the bottom of the screen here. The Giants run a switch release, and Ramsey actually does a pretty nice job avoiding that and sticking with Beckham. But then Beckham takes a really vertical line. You can see him starting to push up field and running right into that linebacker, but he doesn't shy away from that contact, and he doesn't let that contact stop him from running that route at all. He works right through it. But Ramsey gets a little bit caught up there, breaks this inside, and that's another big chunk play. Once again, he ended with about 111 yards in this game, had 45 more yards due to defensive pass interference, and Eli missed 2 potential touchdowns to Odell in this game as well. Those 2 missed touchdowns being this one where Odell runs a post at the bottom of the screen, torches the safety, and Eli overthrows him. Then the next one was a cover 0 look, so an all-out blitz and then one-on-one versus Ramsey. He starts by bending this inside and then pushes vertically. Ramsey has to respect it. He takes a step back, and as Ramsey's taking that step back, Beckham breaks this back inside a little bit more, and I think if you put this anywhere out in front of Beckham, this is a pretty easy touchdown, but Eli misses this pretty badly, and it ends up falling incomplete. So that's 2 touchdowns that Odell could have had on, or this one's on Ramsey. The last one was on the safety, but those are 2 touchdowns that got missed, so Eli not exactly carrying there. If anyone was getting bailed out in the Eli and Odell connection, it was definitely Eli. This is again on Ramsey. Runs a quick inbreaker, gets lots of separation. This is pretty easy, but Eli makes it hard, and Odell has to adjust and make this catch way above his head. Or this play when he's running a drag and makes a catch outside of his frame and behind him look like the easiest thing in the world. The other game I want to quickly highlight is the Josh Norman game, probably one of the most intense wide receiver versus cornerback matchups ever. And because of this, Norman is playing Odell really heavily here on this 4th and 2, really physically trying to force him towards that sideline, really leaning on him. And this is the perfect time for Odell to use what is known as a throw-by technique, which is basically a legal push-off because they never call offensive pass interference. And Odell sells that fade, right? One mistake a wide receiver will make when running this route is slowing up before you do it. So when you do make that push, the cornerback's momentum is no longer going forward. But Odell times that up right, puts that hand on Norman's shoulder, and executes his drop step at the exact same time to create a good 2 yards of separation here on 4th down. And this 4th down really kind of sparked this comeback effort. You see the score here. And the Giants ended up coming all the way back, largely because of Odell. This was later in the drive. Josh Norman's not on him here. He's going to settle down in a hole in the zone at the top of your screen and just make a ridiculous catch about a foot off the ground. His whole body's parallel to the ground outside of his frame, with Luke Kuechly diving on top of him, and is able to come down with that, his weekly ridiculous catch. At this point, I've showcased his route running. I've showcased his hands. This is what he was able to do with the ball in his hands, right? Catches this drag, outruns the corner, burns the angle that the safety has, beats him up the sideline, jukes 2 more guys out. Just a really dynamic athlete and great at every single aspect of playing the wide receiver position. Gets his team into scoring range here. And then once he got his team into the red zone, he tied the game up on Josh Norman with this double move. And in case you forgot, Josh Norman was like the best cornerback in the league at this point, right? Beats him with a double move, gets separation with a little bit of a subtle push off there. Eli underthrows this, but he makes a nice adjustment to the ball. Total concentration, soft hands, tucks it in that shoulder away from Norman's outstretched hands, and once again beats Norman after they were going back and forth and basically fighting the entire game, and steps over him like he's Allen Iverson here. You see that push off right there. It's a skill to do that and not get called. And Odell was really, really good at that. Really, really good at that. And these aren't even the craziest or flashiest or most impressive Odell Beckham plays. Obviously, there's a catch against Dallas. There's that catch against Washington that are some of the best plays you'll ever see from a wide receiver in your life. But that's not really what made Odell Beckham great. It's the route running. It's the technical refinement that allowed him to have 92.8 yards per game in his career on the Giants. To put that in perspective, Davante Adams has been that guy since about 2016. He's been wide receiver 1 on the Packers. He's made, 5 Pro Bowls since then. Over that time, from 2016 to now, he's averaging 10 yards per game less than Odell was on the Giants. And Davante Adams is widely regarded as the best wide receiver in the league, and he's doing that with Aaron Rodgers, while Odell was stuck with aging Eli Manning. So that kind of puts in perspective of what he was doing in New York. And what I'm looking for on the Browns was not so much, the one-handed catches or the spectacular moments, but it was the refinement and the route running. And I always saw that throughout his time in Cleveland, and that's why, I always maintain the faith that Odell Beckham was a really good wide receiver. All right, now we go to the Cleveland film, and this film gives me a freaking migraine because it's clear that Odell Beckham, lined up in the slot here, is still that guy. You look at the juice off the line of scrimmage and how explosive he is and how he threatens this corner on this corner route. He forces him to hold and grab a little bit. He still gets separation, and, there's a touchdown here to be made. And then you look at Baker freaking Mayfield, who is just the worst, man. His footwork and his mechanics and his poise under pressure is just, and always has been, atrocious. I mean, there's just no mechanics, no technique here, and this ball just badly misses outside. It's short, and stuff like this would just happen over and over again during Odell Beckham's time in Cleveland. Here's a touchdown from the same game. All right, and this isn't man coverage. He's not necessarily beating anybody one-on-one here, but when he starts to break this outside, it becomes a foot race between him and the safety, and that's a foot race that Odell Beckham was going to win. And you see the speed. This is probably the best touchdown pass that was ever thrown to Odell during his time in Cleveland, right over that corner. And Baker didn't even throw this. It was Jarvis Landry. All right. I swear to God, Baker never threw Odell a touchdown like that during the whole time there. Here he is at the top of the screen running that same type of corner route that I showed against the Jaguars, right, with that kind of fake post, that step inside, keeping it full stride, and then bending it back out. It's a little bit harder for him to get separation on this particular play because he's getting double teamed. He's getting bracketed by two guys up there, but he's still running a nice route here, and when he breaks, he doesn't drift up the field and let Trayvon Diggs undercut him. He stays on a very straight line and attacks the football and makes a really tough catch through contact there and is able to pick up a really nice gain. And again, this game was just, a very clear indicator to me that Odell Beckham was back and in really good form. But sadly, he couldn't quite keep up this production with Baker throwing in the football. Among Odell's other highlights during the 2020 season was this catch versus the Colts, where he essentially got clotheslined at the catch point and still was able to come up with the pass. He ran this route versus Washington where he faded into the blind spot of the cornerback right there. And then when he came back into view, he was chopping his feet like he was going to settle down, which made 23 here flip his hips and start to come downhill at him, only for Odell to break this outside and create about a good 4 yards of separation here when he makes this catch. This is the play that ended up getting Odell Beckham hurt in 2020. It's a go route, right? And you see the speed, you see the explosiveness, you see how he's eating up that off coverage. And I think that this actually had a pretty good chance at being a big play if Baker were to lay this out maybe here, right, out in front of him. But instead, this is just a horrible, horrible pass thrown short and way too far inside. And it's an easy pick for the cornerback, right? And here's where Odell got hurt, right? Trying to make the tackle after a bad Baker play. And it just killed me because the whole narrative on Odell is like, oh, he's not a team guy, doesn't do what it takes to win. And yet he sacrificed his season trying to make the tackle here, even though he didn't really even need to do that. So that was just tragic, just tragic. And then Baker dinked and dunked his way into a decent game after this. Then the Browns played a bunch of easy opponents. And the narrative on Baker is, oh, he's okay. Odell was holding the Browns back, which, again, just a tragic, tragic narrative that was clearly untrue, but got pushed left and right and everywhere by people looking at the box score. Everyone was pushing that narrative except for me, that is. All right, I had Beckham ranked as one of the top 100 players in the league. Not everything on this list aged great, but I knew Beckham was still that guy, and I also knew Von Miller was still that guy. But, yeah, I didn't have Baker anywhere near here, but I did have Beckham. The official top 100 list, the players ranked Baker Mayfield as the 10th best quarterback in the league and the 71st best player overall, and didn't have Odell Beckham on the list. All I can say is couldn't be me, okay? Couldn't be me. And then in 2021, things got worse. Baker regressed, and the Odell Beckham narrative was getting harder and harder to defend because the dude was not putting up any numbers. But then the hero, J Daddy Productions, uploaded this 11-minute masterpiece of Odell Beckham being wide open and Baker just missing him. And 11 minutes is a long time for this video to go. This wasn't like Beckham's whole Browns career. This was uploaded, and it was just like the first 6 weeks of 2021. And he still had 11 minutes worth of film on this. And then, of course, Odell Beckham's dad reposted this, and it ended up pretty much getting Odell Beckham released from the team, which was the best thing that ever happened. And this video was so right, dude. They were so correct. He literally was always wide open throughout his entire time in Cleveland, and Baker could just never hit him. So, of course, he gets released, and not one single team thought he was good enough to claim him on waivers. Now, he ends up on the Rams, and immediately he starts burning people, mossing people. Here he's on Rasul Douglas, who, as funny as it sounds, was one of the best cornerbacks in the league this season, right? Easily outruns him. You see the ball tracking, you see the soft hands, and you see the touchdown here immediately, which you wouldn't really see in Cleveland. Now, Beckham had a nice regular season for the Rams, but where he was really important and really special was the playoffs, where he was targeted 26 times. He got 21 of those targets for 288 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a catch rate north of 80% and over 11 yards per target. And Kupp is the best wide receiver there, right? But he's not someone who lines up as an X one-on-one on the outside very often. He's in the slot and almost playing a tight end or almost fullback type of role here. And that brings a lot of attention to the middle of the field, and it lets Odell Beckham be one-on-one with these cornerbacks, and Odell Beckham was winning those matchups like each and every time. Right here, you still see the explosiveness off the line of scrimmage, all right, threatening this guy vertically. He opens his hips, and then Odell cuts it inside. That makes a really nice catch through this contact. If you've listened to friend of the show, PFF Seth Galina, talk it all this season, you've probably heard about the backside dig that the Rams do, right? And that's basically, here's the passing strength, right? 3 wide receivers on this side. And then you draw up whatever concept you want for those guys, right? But then on the backside, you've got Odell Beckham isolated, and he's going to run a dig that if all else fails, you trust that he wins his matchup, and you can pick something up even when the main concept fails. And there's Stafford reading it out. No one is really getting open. So he checks that backside. Odell Beckham is able to cut that inside with great timing and get some separation and make a tough catch. And it would happen over and over and over in these playoffs. And it was one of the biggest reasons why the Rams got to, and it's maybe not the biggest reason why they won the Super Bowl because Beckham got hurt, but a big reason why they were there in the first place. Oh, hold on. Let me rewind to the Bucs game because this was an incredible catch, right? He's going to use that same throw-off technique that he used against Josh Norman that I showed a couple plays ago. And instead of attacking his shoulders this time, the corner's shoulders, Odell is attacking the wrists because Dean is not leaning into his frame as much. And this really is not going to get called if all you're doing is attacking those wrists. And the leverage works a little better here anyway. But what's really impressive is the catch because he gets both hands up. But the ball is coming in with so much velocity that it kind of knocks his left hand back. But he's still able to just palm it with one hand and make this catch with one hand on the sideline and get both feet down in bounds. Look at it, the concentration as he watches his feet, make sure that second toe is dragging. Incredible catch. Incredible catch. San Francisco didn't really have anybody who could cover Odell one-on-one, and honestly, neither did the Cincinnati Bengals. Here they all are in man coverage across the board with one high safety. This is cover 1. And you've got Mike Hilton playing with outside leverage here, preventing Odell Beckham from winning that way. But what does Odell Beckham do anyway? He wins that way with that explosive step off his release, right? Plants that foot and goes, beats Hilton, gets separation, tracks that ball through the air, goes up, makes a nice hands catch, and you see Hilton's glove splitting Odell's arms, right? And it's hard to make a catch when the cornerback gets his hands in between your arms like that because he can rip through the ball. But Odell Beckham rotates, keeps that ball away from him, and completes this really difficult catch for the first touchdown of the Super Bowl. And I really wish Odell didn't get hurt in that Super Bowl because if he didn't, I think he was on pace for a monster game, probably over 100 yards, maybe a second touchdown, maybe a run at Super Bowl MVP, and it really would have been fitting, although I did love to see him get his ring. Now, it sucks that he tore his ACL because the one thing I hope you took away from this video is that Odell Beckham has been him, has been elite the whole time. This video is called his redemption arc, but he really didn't need one because he has never done anything wrong, all right? He's never really been rock bottom. He's been good the whole time. The redemption arc has really been the supporting cast around him that is redeemed his reputation and his image. Now, all that being said, the dude is like 30 now with 2 torn ACLs in 2 years. And I don't know how much longer he is going to be a really high-level wide receiver with those 2 things, all right? And I hope it's going to be a long time. And I hope he comes back and has that cherry-on-top season or continues to have a couple more really good seasons and maybe makes a Hall of Fame case. Because right now I don't know if he has that kind of resume or is on track for that kind of resume, even though he's been a Hall of Fame talent the whole time. And that's sad to me. All right, that's sad to me. This is one of the most talented players I've ever watched, one of my favorite wide receivers I've ever watched. And I hope that people give him the recognition that he deserves, even after his career is over, because we are watching someone special here. We are watching someone supremely talented. And yeah, that's kind of the point of this video, is we've been watching someone supremely talented this whole time, and someone who's more than just the highlight reel, even though the highlight reel is ridiculous. So yeah, that is my Odell Beckham praise. I have nothing but praise for Odell Beckham. The reputation that he had received throughout his time in New York and Cleveland was largely flawed and undeserved, and I'm glad to see it get rehabilitated a little bit in Los Angeles, and I hope it continues to. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you next week with another Film Room video, and yeah, that's it. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you haven't, and see you next week.